What's crack-a-lackin'? Welcome in to My Mind is a Weapon Fantasy Football Show.
Welcome into another episode of My Mind is a Weapon Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Sleaze. Today's episode is going to be the running back, start 'em, sit 'em, every single matchup. We're going to dive into defense, rush yards allowed, receiving, reception yards allowed, touchdown, points per games allowed, injuries on defense. This is going to be the video you want to plug in for what running backs to start and what running backs to sit to help you dominate this week. Before we dive into it, guys, make sure you smash that thumbs up, hit that subscription button. Helps me out a ton. I'll be live on Thursday for the first start sit show of the week, and then I'll be live all weekend long, guys. So you can drop your questions in there anytime. If you have comments as well that doesn't pertain to this video, drop them in there. I'll try to answer every single one of them for you guys. If you guys haven't checked out drafters.com, the sponsor, make sure you use promo code SLEEZ. If you sign up, it'll double your initial deposit up to $100. And you can also see our pick'em tickets and everything we do, DFS. We drop it all in the Discord, the guys FF. Me and my partner, Big Draft Energy, we run it. I will drop both those links pinned in the comments and in the description, guys. Let's dive into what running backs you should be starting or sitting here in week 7. And remember, the Bills and the Ravens are out, so James Cook and Derrick Henry, get them out of your lineups. So if you guys are new to the channel, this is my running back board. Green must start flex. I'll give you high end, low end based on what I like for the flex play. Red will ultimately be your sit. When you got the away team at the top, home team heading down to the bottom. We got to kick it off with Thursday night football, the battle of the 80-year-old combined quarterback age of freaking Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco, man. And if you guys watch my quarterback video, I actually like both these quarterbacks to start this week. But we're looking at the running back situation here first. So Jaylen Warren came off the bye last week, had 11 carries, 52 yards, nice yard per carry average last week. I'm not going to put Kenneth Gainwell up there. If you need Kenneth Gainwell as a deep play in like a 16, 18-man league, I'm okay with him to get like 6, 7 points as well. So if you need that, Caleb Johnson, man, finally got some work last week. I hope they get this guy going, man. He's just a better running back. I just want to see him out there as the guy. But in this situation here, so you have the Steelers right now that are going up against the Jacksonville Jaguar defense, or not Jacksonville, Cincinnati Bengals. Sorry, I'm looking at different screen. This is the worst defense in football versus the run. 32.1 points they allowed to the running back position in total per week, guys. 718 rushing yards. That is bottom dead last. Behind them at 658 is the Ravens. They've allowed 60 more yards than the other team. That's the second worst team. That's how bad this defense is. They've given up 6 touchdowns on the ground. That is a touchdown a game average. They've also given up 278 yards through the air and 4 touchdowns through the air. That's 10 touchdowns in 6 games. You have to love Jaylen Warren as a start this week. I usually don't have him as a start. He's usually flex play for me, but this week is a smash start for Jaylen Warren. On to the Bengals side, man. Chase Brown, it just doesn't get any better. I thought, last week, I know it was Joe Flacco coming in for the first time in like 5 days to learn Zach Taylor's system and be the quarterback, and he didn't do bad. But I thought he'd check it down more to Chase Brown with being a statue in the pocket with how their offensive line is so bad. And, dude, you got the Pittsburgh Steelers. They just looked great off the bye last week. Their run D stepped up big time last week as well. Chase Brown is honestly probably the worst pick in fantasy football right now in the second round, and it's not getting better anytime soon. And I'm not starting any of these Bengals versus the Pittsburgh Steelers run D. Pittsburgh Steelers ranks 11th, giving up 20.1 points per game to the running back in total, 446 yards in 5 games. So that's, they have a bye as well. So that's about 80 yards a game. That's how good this defense has been. 191 yards and 1 touchdown through the air. That's 3 total touchdowns in 5 games. So you're looking at like a 50% chance of a touchdown. And with their offensive line, it is absolutely terrible. You could not be starting Chase Brown. Heading down to London, man, these ugly freaking games at Wembley Stadium, man. The Rams at 4-2 are headed in to face the Jaguars 4-2. So it is a big game. The over-under is 44.5. Now, with the Rams side, you do have Puka Nacua that is going to be out in this game. You're going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars run D, which has actually been really, really good this year. Much improved from last year for sure. So when you're looking at this matchup without Puka, and Devontae Adams is going to be your number 1 guy out there, I'm still going to be starting Kyren Williams, even if the Jacksonville Jaguars have a top 10 run D like they do. So the situation base here is why I'm starting Kyren. Jacksonville has given up 19.9, 402 yards on the ground through 6 games. That is phenomenal. That is a very good run D. 2 rushing touchdowns, but Kyren gets all the red zone work. But where they've gotten hurt is 265 through the air. That is the second most yards behind 331 for Tampa Bay that allowed for running backs in the receiving game. You saw Kyron's catch down the sideline last week with his hip hitting down. Absolutely amazing. I like Kyron as a low-end start, not a smash start, but you definitely got to be starting this guy this week. On to the Jags side, man. Trevor Etienne, Byshell Tootin. You saw a little LaQuint Allen. Jags have a very tough schedule coming. This is why we were alluding to sell high on Travis Etienne when you had a chance to. Now you're facing the Rams defense. This is the number 3 run D in football, allowing 15.9 points, 410 yards. That's it through 6 games. That's freaking phenomenal run D. Only how many touchdowns did they let on the ground? 0. That's how good this run D is. 185 yards to the air and a touchdown to the air. They've allowed 1 touchdown to the running back through 6 games. Not doing it. That's like a 15% chance. Not for me. Etienne and Tootin must be sits this week. The 1-5 Saints are headed into Soldier Field to take on the 3-2 Bears. And Alvin Kamara got a lot of work last week. A lot of work last week in the matchup. I didn't think he would get that much. I thought possible trade candidate, Kendre Miller starting to take a little more here and there. And then all of a sudden, you went right back to Alvin Kamara being the guy. So you get the Chicago Bears here. So he is going to be a high-end flex play for me. The Bears ranked 27th versus the running back. Although you saw Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt get held down. You saw Nichols, make a couple plays here and there. But they've given up 629 yards on the ground. That's 100 plus. That's 105 plus yards a game just rushing alone. 3 touchdowns to get on the ground and 158 through the air and 3 touchdowns through the air. And we know that Alvin Kamara can get it done through the air as well. So if you average it out, they're giving up about 140 yards and a touchdown a game. You got to like Alvin Kamara as a strong flex play this week, even though it's still kind of risky. On to the Bears side, coming off that massive win last night over the Commanders. What a game that was. And DeAndre Swift is here for the show. So the New Orleans Saints defense, they ranked 12th versus the running back, giving up 20 points. But they were terrible before the Patriots last week. I don't know what the Patriots and Ramondre Stevenson and Trayvon Henderson were doing in that game. I don't even want to get into it. We'll talk about that on the Patriots side. But they were a bad run D, so they had a good week, and they bumped up about 10 spots. So they've given up 512 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns, 170 through the air, and 2 touchdowns through the air as well. So 5 total touchdowns, and about an average of 700 yards in total to the running back in 6 weeks, about 110, 115. DeAndre Swift looked great. He looked explosive. The Bears off their bye looked healthy. He is going to be a wrecker moving forward from here for the Chicago Bears. And honestly, you can't sit him for the next 4 weeks. The battle of the 1-5s, Cleveland Browns are hosting the Miami Dolphins at the Dog Pound. The over-under is 40.5. Cleveland is favored by 2.5 in this game. Now, Devon Achane, and normally a normal running back that lives between the tackles that goes up against the Cleveland Browns, I would put them as a sit. They are the number 1 run defense. They are number 1 in yards per carry, number 1 in yards allowed, and number 1 in everything, even yards per game to the receiving running back. That is the tough part. So when you have Devon Achane, though, he lives all over the field. So I'm not sitting this guy, even in a very, very tough matchup versus the Cleveland Browns that allow 15.9 points, and they've given up 3 total touchdowns to the running backs. You have a 50% chance. But this guy sees a glimpse of open space. You saw it last week. He just looks like Speedy Gonzalez, man. This guy, you can't sit Devon Achane even on the matchup is really, really rough. On to the Brown side. This is your league winner this week. Quinshon Judkins, I'm calling for 20, 25 plus points. He will be on my smash play this week at the video later in the week. Dude, the Miami Dolphins, man, they just get absolutely gut punched by the run, by the pass, by the tight end, by the quarterback. This defense is absolute shambles. You saw Tua in the press conference, even throwing the team under the bus. The wheels have fallen off completely in Miami. They ranked 28th, giving up 27 points a game to the running back. 806 rushing yards allowed. That is dead last. 2 rushing touchdowns, 270 yards for the air. That's 1,000 total yards, guys. 1,000 total yards to the running back through 6 weeks. That's 150 yards a game. That's unbelievable. That's astronomical numbers. And they've given up 3 touchdowns on the ground as well. You can expect Quinshon Judkins to bounce back in a big way. And there is no way in hell that I'm not putting him as one of my top 6 running backs this week. The 4-2 on fire New England Patriots, led by Drake May, are headed into the Tennessee Titans that are 1-5, 42.5 over under. Patriots are favored by 7.5, and I would crush that bet on that spread. Tennessee Titans do not have Calvin Ridley. It is going to be ugly. On the Patriots side, I can't make it make sense by any means. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson has 20 carries for 32 yards in his past 2 games. He's fumbled 3 times. Travion Henderson is still not getting the job. So the matchup is going to be great because the Tennessee Titans offense is going to be absolute shambles. Their head coach was just fired. Everything is not going well in Tennessee. I mean, I can't believe they fired the head coach after the first, he had the first overall pick with Cam Ward. You're in a rebuild. Prayers up to Callahan, man. That was rough. But you get the Titans here, and this matchup is freaking great. 27.9 points they give up. That's 4th worst in the NFL, ranking 29th. 684 yards, 9 touchdowns on the ground, guys. That's the worst in the NFL. 9 touchdowns through 6 games on the ground. This should be an absolute smash play for both these running backs. 165 yards to the air and another touchdown through the air. That's 10 touchdowns in 6 games. That is a total of unbelievable numbers of, 850 yards on the ground. Now, do I trust either one of these guys as a start in the situation? No. They're both low-end flex plays for me because I can't figure out what the hell is going on in New England and why Travion Henderson does not have this job yet. It doesn't make sense to anyone I talk to. It doesn't make sense to anyone, period. But here we are. So they're both low-end flex plays for me this week. Tennessee Titans side. So interesting enough here. And I'm going to put Tony Pollard on a sit. And we're going to talk about why here right now. So the New England Patriots run D has been absolutely phenomenal over the past couple weeks. I mean, locked up James Cook. They rank 6th. They've given up 17 points a game, 373 yards on the ground. That is better than the Cleveland Browns. That's the number 1 total yardage on the season. That is how good they are versus the running back. They've also given up 230 through the air and 1 touchdown. So almost 600 yards in total. That's 100 yards per game, but they got smashed in one game pretty bad. So it kind of averaged out, but still, this is a top run D. Tony Pollard is going to be in trouble in the trenches. They are going to be playing from behind in this game. And you saw what the Tennessee Titans did. And Tyjae Spears opened up as the starter last week on the first freaking play of the game. So he went from 25 snaps to 60% snaps. And this is their speed guy. This is their receiving back when they're playing from behind. So if you need a low-end flex play, I like Tony Pollard for more points this week. Tyjae Spears for more points this week than Tony Pollard because Tony Pollard is not going to be able to get it down to the trenches. They're going to be playing from behind, and the garbage time is going to go to Tyjae Spears. And I am not starting Tony Pollard at all this week versus the Patriots' phenomenal run D. The 2-4 Raiders are headed into Arrowhead to take on the Kansas City Chiefs in a divisional matchup game. And I don't care. I know the Chiefs' run D is good, right? So Ashton Genty, I'm still starting this guy. He's seeing too much volume. 25 touches a game here. You get the Kansas City Chiefs. They are a good run D. They rank 13th, giving up 20.5, 522 yards on the ground. They've given up 200 yards to the air, so about 720 yards total, which is about 115-yard average per game for the running back. And Genty's even seeing work through the air. They've also given up 4 touchdowns in total. So we've seen Geno Smith, man. This passing game is absolutely terrible. Brock Bowers is probably going to be out again because their bye is next week. And I think we're going to have a different quarterback talk as soon as we get to this bye. But Ashton Genty is going to be a start for me every single time because the volume is too good regardless of the matchup. Now, here's my call of the week, guys, right here. The Kansas City Chiefs. Isaiah Pacheco, I just tweeted it out this morning, is going to put up 15 fantasy points this week versus the Las Vegas Raiders defense. And why? Well, let's dive into it here. So he's coming off that major injury, which made me afraid all year long to draft him. And that's come to fruition. He's only had 1 game over 10 points so far, and that was against Baltimore. 0 touchdowns on the run game. He found 1 through the air against Baltimore in that game, and only played 30% snaps in that game where he scored. So volume is king. Opportunity's got to be there to get the points. That wasn't there. What did we see last week against Detroit? We saw 77% snap usage for Isaiah Pacheco. That is RB1 numbers to me. 70% is RB1. That means 33% of those running backs came in and out. Brashard Smith, Kareem Hunt. He's taking this job. They're not looking for a trade candidate right now, or the Alvin Kamara stuff's got shot down. You get the Las Vegas Raiders run D, which gives up 21.3 points, ranking 17th, 455 yards on the ground, 136 through the air, so about 100 total on the season. But where do the Raiders get beat the most? Red zone touchdowns. Number 7. That's 3rd worst in the NFL. I'm calling Pacheco to fall into the end zone this week. Start him, and he's going to give you 15-plus points against the Las Vegas Raiders in the divisional matchup of the AFC West. An all systems green game for me here. The 4-2 Eagles headed into the 3-2 Minnesota Vikings coming off their bye. And we don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be, Carson Wentz or JJ McCarthy yet. The over-under is 43.5. Philly is only favored by 1.5 in this game. Why? Because their offense has been absolutely terrible. But we got to look at the running backs here. So when you're looking at Saquon Barkley, how are you not starting Saquon Barkley when you spent first draft capital on him? You are starting Saquon. What's crazy, though, is that Saquon Barkley does not have a 20-point game on the season yet through 6 games. If you told me that when the season started, I would have laughed in your face, which has not happened. He had 19.8 versus Denver. That's his highest. Now you get the Minnesota Vikings. They give up 21.7. I'm calling a 20-point Saquon Barkley game this week. They've got to feed the man that is the freaking superstar of this offense and get him going. I think they found that out last week with the loss. So the Vikings are giving up 560 on the ground. Remember, they're coming off a bye. So that right there tells you they give up 115 yards a game on the ground, 3 touchdowns on the ground, 148 through the air. So they get gashed by the run. That's about a 700-yard total through 5 games. That's about 130, 140-yard average. They've given up, 4 touchdowns. This is going to be a Saquon touchdown game. This is going to be a monster game for Saquon Barkley. This is his best game of the year this week. On the Minnesota Vikings side, Jordan Mason is an absolute start going up against the Philadelphia Eagles run D, and I never thought I would say that either because the run D for the Eagles has been terrible. And hopefully they get Jalen Carter back because, he missed the other game and then he got suspended in week 1 with that spitting thing, so he's missed 2 of the games, which is their key defender, which hurts their run D. So you got to factor that in too. Now they give up 24.8. That ranks 25th. 602 yards on the ground. That's 100 yards a game. 217 through the air and 2 touchdowns through the air and 6 touchdowns on the ground. That's 8 total touchdowns and 817 yards through 6 games. That's over 1.3 touchdowns for the running back. That's over 130, 140 yards in total. Jordan Mason still has no Aaron Jones. He should be back next week. And you're going to have quarterback play that's a little shaky. They're going to feed Jordan Mason the rock here. Jordan Mason is going to find the end zone and be a great start this week. The 3-3 red hot Carolina Panthers, winning 3 of their last 4, get the matchup they want. The 0-6 Jets and the wheels are falling off, and Garrett Wilson is going to miss a couple weeks with a hyperextended knee. How are they going to move this football, man? So when we look at the Panthers here, right? So even if Chuba Hubbard is back out there and Rico Dowdle is splitting with him, I am okay not just flexing both these running backs. I am okay starting both of these running backs if you need to this week. Even if it's a timeshare or they update the Chuba as the starter, however it goes, Rico Dowdle's been absolutely on fire. He's been my smash play back-to-back weeks. Check on both of those. Those were easy calls in my opinion. Now you get the New York Jets. The New York Jets defense versus the run. They rank 14th, giving up 20.5 points, 592 yards, 4 touchdowns on the ground, so about 100 yards a game on the ground. 101 through the air and 2 touchdowns through the air. That's 6 total touchdowns. That's a touchdown a game for the running back. And that is with the offensive weapons that can help them. Garrett Wilson, their superstar, is out. Justin Fields just had -10 accumulative pass yards versus the Broncos last week in London. This offense is absolute shambles. The opportunities and possessions that the Carolina Panthers are going to have in this game is the reason that I'm okay starting both these running backs this week. Now, on to the Jets side, and I tweeted it out, I'm a little shaky on Breece Hall. So, yeah, Breece Hall got the 22 touches last week against Denver, did nothing with them. Now you have no one. The box is going to be completely stacked without Garrett Wilson out there. Is Breece Hall going to be the guy they lean on and give the 20 touches to? Yeah, for sure. But the Panthers' run D has been actually phenomenal this year. Last year, they were the run D that you started everyone against. Now they rank right now. Big jump. They were bottom 32 by a mile last year. They rank 15th. They've only given up 483. They've given up 3 touchdowns on the ground. So that's great numbers. That's about, let's say 75 yards a game on the ground they allow. 163 through the air and 2 touchdowns, so 5 total touchdowns. But they're on a win streak, and the team's on a high. So Breece Hall's a very, very low-end flex play for me that's going to be super touchdown dependent, but he's going to probably get the 20 touches, but it's probably going to be like a 7-8 point outing again that's ugly. And he's not getting the receiving work with Justin Fields at all. Like, people try to tell me that Justin Fields is a check down guy before the season. Dude, I did all the research behind that. That is not true, and it is not coming to fruition. And Breece Hall is a very, very shaky, low-end flex play for me this week. The 2-4 Giants, led by Jackson Dart, are headed into Mile High Stadium to face Bo Nix, and the Broncos kind of struggling offense. The over-under is 40.5 here. The Denver's favored by 7.5, which I think is a little high with how their offense is playing. But we're looking at the running backs here. So I mean, who electrifies the Giants more than Cam Scatterbo and Jackson Dart? And last week he went absolutely nuclear versus Philly for 31 points. Almost cracked his first 100-yard game. I think he had like 98 yards and a couple receiving, there as well. Now, when you're looking at the matchup, though, like people are going to want to throw Cam in there, and he obviously ripping his shirt off at the press game or after the game at the Thursday night booth. All of that's awesome. Fitzgerald, he brings the energy. But you have to look at the matchups too, guys. You can't just look at your running back and be like, oh, I'm going to start him this week because he popped last week. That's not how I operate in fantasy football. So Denver Broncos, number 4 versus the running back. They've only given up 17.4 points per game. They've given up 472 yards through 6 games. That's very good. 1 rushing touchdown, tied for second. That's phenomenal. 236 yards through the air and 2 touchdowns. So if anywhere Scatterbo gets it done in this game is through the air, and we thought that with the Philly game as well, and it didn't happen through the air. So I'm not even a high-end flex on Scatterbo. He's a flex play. He's not a low-end flex. He's just like middling tier that could give you 10, 12 points with touchdown upside. It's a very, very tough matchup at Mile High Stadium here. Jackson Dart is going to be under massive duress. On the Broncos side, J.K. Dobbins, man, he had the smash play last week. I thought he was going to absolutely crush him, and he just did not. He literally lives on an explosive play. If you've watched the Broncos offense, you've watched his, 50, 60% snap share, he is the lead running back for now. But his yards per carry are based on a 60, 50-yard hit. And if he doesn't get that, you're probably looking at 3 yards a carry of a running back. So that's the scary part with J.K. Dobbins. The matchup you get versus the New York Giants this week is going to be pretty damn good too, but it was last week as well. So that's what's kind of scaring me here. So the Giants ranked 21st. They give up 22 points a game, 593 on the ground. That's almost 100 yards a game, 5 touchdowns on the ground. Again, great matchup. That's an 80% chance of a touchdown, 181 yards through the air. So it's about, 130 per game for the running back. But you've seen a little more RJ Harvey uptick. You saw J.K. Dobbins struggle. So I'm going to put him as a low-end flex play, even though the matchup is great. So I'm never really a J.K. Dobbins guy either, so it's kind of scary. I'm going to go with low-end flex play. We're going to stick with it. The game I'm going to be glued to, man. The 5-1 Indianapolis Colts, led by Indiana Jones, is headed into the L.A. Chargers that are 4-2. The over-under is 48.5. Chargers are favored by 1.5 in this game after getting that Dicker field goal kick, which might have saved their season. Now, when we're looking at the Colts here, this is probably your RB1 on the week. Jonathan Taylor is going to absolutely rip apart the Chargers run D. They have just been getting gashed back-to-back games for 150 plus, and their defense still ranks 16th, but Khalil Mack being gone has just changed this whole run D. So the Chargers currently rank 16th, get a 20.9, 530 on the ground, 5 touchdowns, 167 yards through the air. So you're looking at about 700-yard total through 6 games, about 115 plus. Jonathan Taylor behind this offensive line, I'm probably going to rank him with my RB1, and you're never sitting Jonathan Taylor, let's be real. Now, here's another one of my big calls besides Isaiah Pacheco smashing for the Chiefs this week, right? Everyone ran to their waiver wire to pick up Kamani Vidal, which is smart. He's going to be a flex play, right? But I don't like it as a flex play this week. And people are going to look at his stats from last week and be like, why, Sleaze, are you sitting the guy that put 28.2 points up with 18 carries for 124 yards with 6.89 yards per carry? That's against the Miami Dolphins run D. They're the worst in football. I could probably get out there and get 100 yards against some freaking Miami Dolphins run D. I don't know if I could, but that'd be funny if I did. But 3 receptions, 14 yards, and found the end zone to the air as well. Now, you get the Indianapolis Colts, and I dare you, this is why you got to look at the numbers behind the scenes here. I dare you to find me a running back versus the Colts that's had a good game all year long. It's not there. This has been a great run D. They are number 8. They've only given up 473 yards on the ground. That's about 70 yards on the ground. The Chargers offensive line is also beat up, but Miami was so beat up that they could just run through them. So that's the only reason it looked good. 182 yards on the ground and 1 touchdown on the ground. So you're looking at about, 600 total yards, about 100 total yards per game. He only played 67% of the snaps. Haskins was still involved. He'll still be a little involved in this game, although Kamani Vidal's got the role here. The way to beat the Colts is not through the ground. It is through the air. So I'm a little lower on Kamani Vidal this week, and I'm not starting him versus the Colts, even though he had a big week last week. Unless you need like a desperation flex play because of the buys, I'm okay with it, but I really don't like it besides that. The game of the week where you start everybody, every position, everything possible. The Dallas Cowboys, through 2-3-1, coming off their bad loss to the Panthers, are taking on the Commanders that are 3-3 coming off their bad loss last night to Caleb Williams. Now, both these defenses, guys, are just absolutely terrible. You saw DeAndre Swift just run through them last week versus the Commanders, and you saw Rico Dowdle take the revenge game to the Dallas Cowboys. You are starting everyone in this game, every single position. When I get to all my videos, I'm starting everyone. So the Dallas Cowboys defense, third worst versus the running back, 28.4 points, 657 yards on the ground allowed. That's 115 just on the ground, 255 through the air, 355 through the air. 1,000 plus for the defense. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is absolutely going to feast in this game and find the end zone. Javonte Williams, on the other hand, coming off a bad game, playing against the Carolina Panthers. So remember that when I said the Panthers' run D has been good. Now you get the Washington Commanders. They rank 18th, giving up 21.3. 4 total TDs, 532 yards on the ground, 281 through the air. That's 700 total yards. You're looking at about 130 yards and a touchdown possibility for Javonte Williams on a big bounce-back game. The over-under is the highest on the week at 54.5. Washington's favored by 2.5 on the road. CeeDee Lamb could be back in this game to open up more for Javonte Williams. You're starting both these running backs and don't even think about it. It just doesn't get better for the Cardinals, man. The 3-1-1 Packers are headed into Arizona that are 2-4, and we don't know if it's going to be Kyler Murray or Jacoby Brissett. And honestly, Jacoby Brissett made that offense look better than Kyler Murray did all year long in one game. But we're looking at the running backs here. Josh Jacobs, are you ever sitting this guy? No. The Arizona Cardinals ranked 24th versus the running back, 23.3 points, 533 on the ground, 4 touchdowns on the ground, 220 through the air. That's 750 total yards they've given up to the running back, 6 total touchdowns. That's a touchdown a game, 140 yards. Josh Jacobs could possibly find the end zone twice in this game. Packers mop them up easy here. Cardinal side, and I could put Bam Knight up there as well. I did say he'd be a dart throw and flex play that found the end zone last week, which is kind of a crazy call. You're not playing anyone versus the Packers run D. Let's be real. You're not playing Bam Knight. You're not playing Michael Carter. Trey Benson, hopefully back here in a little bit. Who knows what they do at running back, but I honestly think the Cardinals just need to close up shop on the season either way. So Packers are a top 5 run D, coming in at number 5, 17.8, only 330 yards allowed on the ground. Not good situation. 2 rushing touchdowns allowed and 122 through the air. This is one of the best defenses versus the run. I'm not even thinking about the Arizona Cardinals running backs, period. The guys that worked out together all offseason long are here to face off against each other. The 3-2 Falcons coming off that big win against the Bills, man. What a performance. Headed in to face my 4-2 49ers, who are just beat up across the board, man. Fred Warner, prayers up, season over. Nick Bosa, season over. Bijan is going to absolutely feast. So even when I look at the 49ers numbers versus the run, which have been dipping, they rank 20th, giving up 22 points a game, 544 on the ground, 4 rushing touchdowns, 154 through the air, so about 700 yards, 6 total touchdowns. So a touchdown average for a running back. You saw Bijan go absolutely career nuclear versus the Bills. And what was wrong with the Bills defense? They were beat up. What's wrong with the Niners defense? They're beat up. Tyler Algier is even going to be a possible flex play in this game because there's literally 2 superstars missing. My team just cannot stay healthy, man. We're 4-2, and it's honestly like the craziest 4-2. Now, Christian McCaffrey, are you ever sitting this guy when he's healthy in fantasy football? No, you are not. I do not care that the Falcons, locked up James Cook at like 5 yards per carry. I don't know why the Bills did not keep feeding him. But they are number 2 versus the running back, giving up 15.9, 410 yards. They've had a bye also, so remember that. It's only 5 games. 69 yards through the air, that's going to change. 2 touchdowns through the air, that is going to change. CMC has been eating in the pass game, eating in the run game. Touches galore. This is going to be just a phenomenal running back game for both these guys in this game. Man, the 5-1 Baker Mayfield MVP leading quarterback are headed into the Detroit Lions 52.5 over under the second highest implied point total game of the week. Detroit is favored by 5.5 over the Bucs, which is wild because the Bucs have so many injuries offensively that it's crazy. So when we're looking at this game, Rachaad White has been on an absolute tear with Bucky Irving being gone. The Detroit Lions, though, they're a good run D. They are number 6. They only given up 17.8 points per game, 419 on the ground, 4 touchdowns on the ground, 154 through the air. So under 100 yards a game and under a 1 touchdown a game average. So it's going to be a tough game for Rachaad White here, but his usage is just too hard to ignore. Like he's still a low end start for me, not a smash start, just because he's getting 20 plus touches a game. And Bucky Irving, they've already ruled out, and their bye is coming, so Bucky might even miss next week too, which is just killing me as a Bucky owner. Now on to the Lions side. You just had Dan Campbell say that they're going to get David Montgomery more involved. I'm not buying it this week versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers run D. Where does the Tampa Bay Buccaneers run D thrive at? They thrive in between the tackles. They get beat through the passing game through the air. So when you look at their D, they rank 23rd, giving up 22.3, but they've given up 392 rush yards. That is phenomenal. So in between the tackles, they're damn good. 4 touchdowns on the ground. But here's the thing, 331 yards through the air. Who's their receiving back? That would be Jahmyr Gibbs. 1 touchdown through the air as well. So they've given up 700 yards in a split. Receiving yards are very high and rushing yards are very low. This should tell you that David Montgomery is going to be a sit and Jahmyr Gibbs is always a start. The all systems red Monday Night Football doubleheader last game. The Houston Texans 2-3 off a bye, heading into the 4-2 Seattle Seahawks coming off their big win, is going to be the over-under of 40.5 in this game. The spread is 3.5. Now, Woody Marks, Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, we don't even know if he's playing. So obviously Woody Marks had that bad game coming out of Baltimore, which is a smash matchup for him, and nothing happened there. But people think that like Nick Chubb took the job. Woody Marks still had more snaps. Nick Chubb just found the end zone in the red zone. That was it. Now you're going up against the Seattle run D. I'm not starting either one of these running backs in this offense versus Seattle run D at all. Seattle right now currently versus the running back, they rank in at 22nd, only giving up 371 yards on the ground, which is damn good. They give up 22 points in total. They give up 344 through the air. That's where Woody Marks will thrive, is through the air. It's not going to be a Nick Chubb get between the tackles, kind of like a David Montgomery situation. Now, Seattle Seahawks, and why I told you not to draft Kenneth Walker all year long, you're seeing it come to fruition. His snap share was down again. Zach Charbonnet was above him again with 60%. I think it was like 57 to 43, which is a big, big difference. You're going up against the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans run D is number 9, top 10 defense. They give up 19 points a game, 389 on the ground. They've also had a bye, so factor that in. 5 rushing touchdowns. We know their goal line back is Charbonnet. 103 through the air. The receipt, that's very good. That's 25 yards a game through the air. The receiving back is Kenneth Walker. These guys in this Clint Kubiak 50-50 or 50, say 60-40 split that's going on, I can't recommend them as a start. If you need a low-end flex play, that's probably as best as it gets. And I'd say your higher touchdown upside lies with the red zone running back, which is Charbonnet. So, man, it's like one of these guys got to get hurt for the other one to explode. And I hate saying that because if it's like this, it's going to be very, very bad. And they're winning. So it's not like they're trying to move anybody, So this situation is just terrible right now for both these running backs. Thanks for rocking with me. That is the end of the episode, guys. That is the running backs that you should be starting or sitting heading into week 7. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. On your way out, make sure you tap that thumbs up button. Helps me out a ton. Hit that subscription button. Turn that bell on. Again, I'll be live all weekend long. If you guys haven't checked out drafters.com and signed up, make sure you use promo code SLEAZE. And if you want to talk fantasy football 24/7 off streams, off the show, the link for the Discord, the Guys FF, is pinned in the comments as well, guys. My next episode is going to be wide receivers, then tight ends. And then tomorrow I'll dive into all my rankings. And then we'll get into some sleepers and some smash plays on Friday. And I might have a couple different shows coming this weekend, guys. But thank you guys again for all the support, man. That's it for me in this episode. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Sleaze Bomb out.